Welcome, everyone. We are back. Awful Takes, episode 17. Sorry for a little hiatus over the last week, but we are going to try to play catch up over the next couple of weeks so we can finish out our Halloween horror extravaganza, all-inclusive, no frills, horror season movie talk show. Yeah. Yeah, episode 17. I think we can kind of just go with it because I didn't really have too many setup, I guess. But if you're checking us out on Spotify or YouTube for the first time, we have timestamps in the description. So if you just want to jump ahead to the review, by all means do so. It's the show where we talk about movies, music, and I have awful takes. And I'm here to bore you guys and force you to listen to me. Yep. Let the snoring begin. But thank you guys for joining us. I apologize for that week off. Things get a little busy in my life. Just the other day, I mean, this guy said, "Are you the host of Awful Takes podcast?" And I said, "I might be." Then I paid for his drink and I walked away. And yeah, that was it.
Congratulations.
So we're growing, and we're going to soon be the only talk show in the entire online review hemisphere.
Yep.
My name is Nabahi.
Hello, I'm Wallied from Surgator Productions again.
And episode 17 starts right now. Wallied, was there anything you wanted to mention in movie news before we get into our review today?
Yeah, of course. So I came by some interesting movie news that honestly kind of surprised me. So obviously, Kendrick Lamar, he's been a pretty big name this past year with the whole beef with Drake, and of course, Not Like Us being a very big hit, being one of the biggest songs of the summer. And also him going to be performing at the Super Bowl halftime show this year, which I am super excited about and I cannot wait for. However, he does have one other thing that's going to be happening next year, and he is going to be in a new musical film that is going to be created by the creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It is considered to be a slave comedy that just started filming, and it has a release date of the 4th of July, which I think makes it even really funny. There's not too much plot about the film. There's a bit of like a minor little plot thing of what the film is supposed to be from just like a few leaks, so I'm not sure how much of it is true and how much of it is just kind of rumors. But the film is said to depict the past and present coming to a head when a young black man who is interning as a slave reenactor at a living history museum discovers that his white girlfriend's ancestors once owned his. So pretty right there, you have something that's pretty absurd and pretty crazy. I'm definitely intrigued to see what this film is and what kind of musical numbers they'll have, and just to kind of see Kendrick Lamar's acting skills, because I know it's kind of interesting to see a musician and a rapper kind of go into the acting world. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it's not so good. But I'm definitely intrigued, especially because Kendrick Lamar has had such a big year. Just definitely to see like what he'll do with this project. But yeah, Nabahi, how do you feel about that?
I'm interested. What a pairing. South Park guys and Kendrick Lamar is something I never would have thought happened. If it was on my bingo card, I would have been like, give me a new card because this is never going to happen. But here we are. Wow, that's kind of insane. I'm a casual Kendrick Lamar fan. By no means am I a hardcore fan, listen to all his music all the time. And I'm very much a casual fan. If I hear a song of his that I like, I'll listen to it. So I'm interested and I'm intrigued. However, on the other side, I am not the biggest fan of South Park. I don't know why. It just never really connected with me. Granted, maybe I haven't watched the right episodes. Maybe that's something I need to make time for and check out, because I know these guys have such a big following, and I know it's just totally just an event anytime these guys' names are attached to something. And I've known they've crossed over into other mediums before. Like they have their South Park show. But I know at one point they made a South Park game that is very widely regarded as one of the greatest RTS games. And apparently it's really funny and everything. So I think they probably know, you know, how to transition into a different format. So I'm definitely intrigued. Did it say they were directing or are they just writing?
So they're writing and directing it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That'll be really interesting. I know there are so many people who have wanted to work with the South Park guys, so I wonder how it got started. Was it Kendrick who approached them, or did they approach Kendrick for this?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I would have to assume it would be the South Park guys approaching him.
Yeah.
But you never really know. But I'm definitely intrigued because I'm not too familiar with a lot of their works. I've seen a couple South Park episodes that I've enjoyed. I definitely want to check out Team America World Police at some point and their South Park bigger, longer, uncut film that I've heard really awesome things about. So I'll definitely have to check out like the few films they've made before checking this one out, just to kind of get an idea of like the type of humor and the type of like films that they usually make. So I'm definitely intrigued for sure, especially because I've heard so much about Trey Parker and Matt Stone over the years. Yeah, I would say for me, I'm more of like a diehard kind of Kendrick Lamar fan. I would probably say he's like up there with like one of my favorite rappers probably ever. I feel like just a lot of his music is really great, and he tends to just have like really great storytelling and just really great flow and rapping a lot of the time. So I'm definitely curious to see how he'll be in a musical, you know, because considering I don't think he's ever really done anything musical related. So this should definitely be like a trip for sure.
Yeah. I'm definitely intrigued as far as online or not online adult animated comedies and stuff. Mine kind of starts and ends with The Simpsons. I don't really watch anything else that has been in that hemisphere, like South Park or Rick and Morty. I'm just like, never really connected with me. And I know sometimes in the online review space, people hype up certain episodes, and then I watch them, and I'm like, yeah, it was kind of okay.
Yeah, I got
and I
you.
just didn't really care. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something I need to get more into because I know these guys have such a big following, but I probably just need the right episodes. Something in there has to work for me. There's no way.
And they're still releasing like new episodes
Yeah.
now, because I know it takes them like a week to make just like one South Park episode, which is pretty short compared to a lot of other shows that get animated.
Yeah.
And apparently like they go on relevant topics and they portray them in apparently a really funny comedic way. So I'll definitely have to check out kind of more of those types of episodes just to see how their commentary is. But yeah.
But yeah, I guess, dang, that'll come a lot sooner than we are thinking.
Which is insane.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, that's something I would have ever guessed would ever happen, but here we are. So yeah, if you have a bingo card for the year and it's really out there with a lot of stuff, it might surprise you, I guess.
Maybe Drake can be in the sequel.
Oh my God. Drake's the villain of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Stupid. Again, not to hype it up, but eventually we are going to start talking about music here pretty soon. I went through a little cathartic experience. I guess I'll mention it. The last time me and Wallied did a review show, after we ended up talking for music for 2 hours pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And I went through a cathartic experience. The whole time we were talking, we had such a very different opinion on things. And it slowly just dawned on me when I was driving home. I came to the very real awakening that I am a pessimist and Wallied is an optimist. And that's exactly why we were having such a back and forth. I'm like, dang, you know what? Maybe I need to think a little more optimistically, and maybe I need to not be such a downer on stuff as I have been. I don't know if Wallied has seen it or not, probably not, but I'm telling you, that whole conversation, I was just like, that's the whole root of this thing, is that I'm a pessimist and I'm just so like, it's going to be bad, or I don't want to listen to this because I'm not going to like it. And it's like, maybe I could think in a different way. Maybe I could open myself up to more things and try different stuff that I'm not used to.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I feel like with music, it's a lot harder than film. I feel like music's kind of more niche, especially with like albums, because not a lot of people listen to albums. it is a bit harder to get those people into albums. But I feel like for me, it's like when I recommend music to people, I feel like obviously it just depends on like what type of music they're into, you know? So if I can find like new records that are from that genre they like, and it can maybe give them like a chance to check it out, that always kind of gives me faith to maybe people like checking out more new albums and kind of maybe opening them up to like maybe more new styles of music, or just hearing like a more modern style to that approach. But yeah, I don't know. Music's such a strange one because it's like they have the music they love, but they don't really want to like kind of open themselves up, which can be hard for sure. And I know it was a little hard for me too, getting into music a lot more, especially like checking out more new genres or checking out more experimental music. It can be very difficult at first, but I feel like once you kind of like just give the music a chance and like just let it sink in for like a minute or two, sometimes it can hook you in, and then sometimes it can kind of take you out. So I don't know. It's like a case by case basis with a lot of music, and especially much more newer music. There are just so many albums, and I can't even tell you how much I go on AOTY, and there's like 20 albums on like the front page that are like new albums coming out, and it's just like you just kind of like have a hard time trying to figure out like which one to like pick and choose too. And especially also just because it's like I feel like it's much more easier to listen to a lot of music, especially with like the internet and with like a lot of like YouTube and Spotify. Like it's like you have like so much music at the tip of your fingers that it's like it's so hard to like just pick and choose like your favorite music, and it's just like where do you even begin?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, for me, I feel like music discovery, I think is, I don't know. I've always found music discovery to be such an interesting thing, and just such a powerful, awesome thing where it's like, it's almost like just watching your favorite films for like the first time. It's like that kind of feeling that I get with a lot of music discovery.
Yeah. And it's something that I definitely have a hard time translating. That's, I think, why I haven't wanted to talk about music immediately, is just because I want to find the right way to go about it to where I'm not being completely biased as to my own viewpoints and things, but also letting my own personal opinions out, you know, and what songs do I like? What music do I like? What connects with me? And I feel like if we started too early, I would have definitely not sounded as well as I could have compared to like, I feel like with us starting with film and things, I'm kind of finding my way of voicing my own opinions and doing it in a clear way. For me, obviously, and I think for everyone, music is kind of like one of the first things in your life that you can fully control and you can decide at a very young age, compared to like the way you dress, the movies your parents will show you or take you to go see. Obviously, I grew up in the era where there was not streaming or anything, but I do remember at such a young age, it's like, I can decide what I listen to. I can decide what album I like, what band I like. And it was just like this full moment of like, I have control, you know, this is who I am. This is my taste, you know? So just trying to find a way to obviously translate that for other people has been hard, but I feel comfortable enough now that when we talk about music, it's going to be good, you know?
Yeah.
And I know I've mentioned it to Wallied. When I talk about music and things, one of the things I want to stay away from is scoring, rating things, because I feel like, I don't know, it's very hard to just slap a number on an album and call it done, you know, compared to like a movie. Again, music is just so personal to so many people that it's like, I'd rather avoid doing that. And I want to come up with like a system or a rating, not a rating system, but maybe like a recommendation system of, oh, you know what? These 4 songs out of the album, they're in my recent playlist now. I'm going to be listening to these songs, you know, stuff like that, to where I avoid that song's a 9 out of 10. That one's a 6. That one's a 7. And this is my overall score. I feel like I want to stay away from that.
Yeah, especially because music is much more personal, but also just like, it's kind of, I feel like people, not to go on this direction, but I noticed with a lot of Fantano's reviews, they kind of more focus on the number he gives it rather than just listening to him like actually say the, you know, like what his thoughts were on the album. So I do highly agree. If we are going to be talking about music in the future, I do want to stay from scoring. I think my kind of way of scoring maybe with music would be like, hey, this is great. If you love artists A, B, and C, check this album out.
Yeah.
Or, hey, if you're not really into this style or niche of music, maybe don't check this one out. But maybe you can check out this song and see if you're interested.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of more the way to go with reviewing music and just talking and discussing music. I would just say it's more like that rather than trying to do it like a review.
Exactly. Because I feel like, if I'm being honest, my favorite albums, they're all 10s out of 10s.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm at that point where I've heard them so much that I'm just like, I don't see flaws, but it's like, I'm recommending this to someone. I can't say that, because I'll be honest, on my first listen, maybe it wasn't the 10 out of 10 that I think it is now,
Yeah.
So yeah, but we're going to do that soon. Honestly, I see it coming in the next month or two.
Okay.
And we'll be coming for you, Fantano. And pretty soon people are going to be like, what awful takes review did it get? Not what Fantano's score was it. That'll never happen. All right. The movie I recommended is called Lake Mungo. Came out 2006?
2008.
2008.
Which is
Sorry, I don't know the
insane.
year. I didn't see it until like 2018. So it had been 10 years after the movie
Yeah,
came
I've
out.
heard about it for a long while.
Yeah, this is a movie that, again, I saw it. And again, I just want to give a little forward, I guess. Movies to me are, at one point, were super immersive and everything. And it could really put you in the zone of, being scared and afraid. But once the door was open for me on scary video games, I was like, you know what? That's the absolute pinnacle. I'm in control. I'm in full control of my surroundings and how I want to go about this situation. And it was past that moment where I started to view scary movies as like, it's not making me feel scared in the way that game did. And I know I shouldn't have been thinking like that, but it's true. Playing Outlast for the first time, I was genuinely terrified. Playing Resident Evil 7 for the first time, it was so hard for me to finish that game. So past that point, I was just like, nothing else really feels like that in terms of movies. I would go to a lot of horror movies and be disappointed that I didn't really leave that scared. This movie changed that. We'll eventually get to it, but there are some very genuinely terrifying scenes in this movie, and I think it is absolutely worth talking about. So yeah, let's get into it. The movie opens with some very interesting imagery. There's a lot of different, shots, and some are filmed with nice cameras, some are just pictures. But yeah, just right away you're kind of just thrown in. It just really doesn't waste its time with getting you into what you're about to watch. Pretty soon, after all that kind of contrasting imagery pops up, a little paragraph pops up on screen, and it says, in December 2005, a tragic accident began, a series of extraordinary events that thrust a grieving family in the small Victorian town of Ararat into the media spotlight. That's the paragraph. Then it cuts to the next sentence. This film is a record of those events. And immediately you are watching a documentary. You hear voiceovers. You see establishing shots like any other documentary. You see interviews.
Archival footage.
Name text pop up of who's being interviewed. Who are they, Immediately I was like, okay, this is different. And it's almost like that. Again, I say this a lot, but it really kind of let my guard down of thinking I'm watching something, but it turns out I'm watching something else, It's like that immediate reaction of the ride you thought you were on. Nope, you're actually on a different ride. And immediately I was just like, whoa, that's so different, I guess, Wallied, I probably mentioned beforehand, but what was kind of going through your head when you saw this was like a documentary?
So at first, I legit thought it was real for like the first 30 minutes. I was like, wait, is this a real story?
Yeah.
You know, because it really just sucks you into that whole documentary aspect, I think, really well, where it definitely helped me to kind of sympathize more with like the family, but also kind of be like, wait, are they kind of in on it? I had a lot of,
Oh, wow.
I actually thought they were in on it at first because I was like,
Wow.
what is the reason for them going to, how did she drown? How did, I don't know. Because like just the way from like how the dad was talking about it, I was just kind of like unsure. I was
Wow.
like, is he, because just from like the way he was talking about his daughter, I was just like, he seemed like he had a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't entirely sure if it was just maybe like the parental instinct in him, or if it was like he felt like he was hiding like a very deep, dark secret. And especially when you see Matthew's character and you kind of see he's a little bit more quiet, he's a little bit more, especially with like that, I won't jump the gun too much, but when you kind of see that reveal where he's at the forest and you see that he like faked the images, I'm like, wait, so like I don't know. I was questioning a lot of like what was real and what was not real.
Yeah.
Like, are there spirits? Are they just making this up for like the documentary? Is it kind of like phony? Like I don't know. I had a lot of questions going into it, and especially with just Alice. Like I was genuinely curious. Like, okay, how did she get in this situation? How did she even end up there in the first place? And I was kind of surprised that it was like almost kind of like a mystery film. Like it was almost like trying to investigate Alice's murder, and it's like figuring out the little pieces of the puzzle. And it's
Yeah.
like, once you see the full picture, it's like, oh, smacks, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of guessing. I was asking a lot of questions, but I was also I was also just genuinely terrified, where I was almost kind of closing my eyes a lot of the time, where I
Yeah.
was putting my hands over my face, because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm in for.
That documentary feel really, again, it hits you right away. Again, like if I couldn't imagine, like if you were watching this in a movie theater or whatever, like it's just such a drastic change. And that's why I really recommend watching it without not knowing too much, because again, that feeling I had that, oh, I'm watching a horror movie. And then, oh, wait,
It's a
this
documentary.
is documentary. Wait, what? And it's like Wallied says, and like with a lot of documentaries, it's like you're trying to figure out the truth of like, okay, well, what happened? Like this dad's giving this interview. I didn't even once think to assume like, oh, well, is he telling the truth? You know, that's very interesting, and it
Yeah.
probably gives like a feeling of like paranoia of like, I don't know what's going on. But again, right away from a filmmaking standpoint, it feels like a documentary. You have interviews, you have again establishing shots of locations, you have archival footage, photographs, and I can't even imagine what went into the making of this, because it feels so authentic and it feels so real that, like Wallied, it's like, is this real? You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't imagine how meticulous they must have been, like taking these photographs. Like it looks like you're watching like a family just interact, and it's just a photo for like a second. And yet it feels so genuine. You're like, damn, this feels real. Or the archival footage is like old VHS
The home video
footage, and it's just like, damn, this is like filmmaking on like so many different levels, that not only are they doing this documentary perspective, they are very much trying to make it feel authentic and real. And again, in the context of like a horror movie, man, does that amplify the scares, because it feels so real and so genuine. You're like, oh, this is crossing that boundary. It way more than any other horror film I've seen, because it has that realness to it, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of like, the thing I like just gravitated towards so much of this film, and why I find it so terrifying is just so much of that fear of the unknown, you know, just asking a lot of those questions, like what's real, like what's going on. And then on top of it, just that whole family side of horror. And it's like, as the film goes along, you kind of see just like how they were in their relationship as a family. And I was like kind of surprised how sad it was and everything. I was like, damn, like this is this is like really depressing
Yeah.
almost, you know.
And right away from the beginning, it's said that Alice is dead, and it shows photos of her corpse and everything, and
oh my God.
you're just like, what happened, you know? And then you start to realize it's like, okay, they're telling the story of her and her life and her family surrounding it, you know? And these interviews go into the different sides of Alice, and you really get that genuine feeling like you know who she is, you know, if you're hearing this family talk about her. But then it goes into different aspects. Like the mom will be describing like dreams she has, and she was like, you know, she had that feeling of like dreaming so sincerely about Alice and surrounding it. And there's a line in there that really gives me the chills. She's like, I don't know why, but I had this dream, yet I had woken up, but I didn't want to open my eyes because I felt something in the room with me. And I was like, that's terrifying. I've had instances like that too, where I've had like a nightmare or whatever, and it's like, yeah, sometimes your body can kind of wake up, but your eyes aren't like open yet, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a really terrifying like feeling. And not only to mention that she says like there was this presence in the room, and it'll show footage of like fixed camera angles, things like that of this house. Really just adds to that atmosphere of, whoa, this is like feeling a little too real right now, you know?
The line that I think that scared me, one of the lines that I think scared me the most was when the dad was talking about the story of like him going into Alice's room at night, and like most of the lights are turned off, and he just hears his daughter saying, get out, I don't want you here.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, raised the question for me of like, was the dad in on it? Was because of that scene and that interaction that he had with his like ghost daughter almost.
Yeah.
Made me kind of question more of like, okay, what actually happened before the events of the film, and like, did the dad do something wrong? Almost.
And the beginning again really has that authentic documentary feel. And you almost kind of start to question like, okay, this is a horror movie, but I'm not really like feeling too, it just feels so, you know, just like a documentary.
Yeah.
And then they start to blur that line a little bit. The son, he's a photographer, and like some other movies you've seen, he's set up cameras in certain areas to take photos. I remember the first one is he takes this photo from this spot, and he takes it over a couple months. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I just wanted to see like the passage of time and things and in the environment.
Yeah.
And it's like the backyard of the house. And it shows, you know, each photo as it goes on. And then he says, there was something in the last photo that caught my attention. And you're looking at the photo, it shows it full screen, and you're just like,
wait, where is it?
What's
wrong with it?
And I swear, okay, normally I don't care for zooms in movies and stuff. Again, some of the times it works. Usually it's with comedy or things like that, you know, to add like a comedic beat or something.
Yeah, of course.
The zooms in this movie are genuinely terrifying. You see the photo, and then it starts to zoom in, and you realize, oh shit. And you just see like this figure like standing there. Again, nothing happens. They don't amplify it with anything, in any kind of breaking of immersion, and it just zooms in. And obviously it's a photo, so it's gonna get grainier like the closer you get. But that just adds to the scares, and it's like, holy fuck, like what is, and you just see a figure, and they're like, yeah, like it's Alice's kind of spirit almost, and it's like, oh my god, like, whoa, that's terrifying. And then from that moment on, I was like, okay, this is kind of what I'm in for now. Maybe like this unraveling of Alice and her spirit and things like that. Okay, now I kind of see where the scares are coming from. But I'm telling you, the first time they had that photo and that zoom in happened, like I I was on the edge of my seat. I was freaking out. Were you feeling the same way?
Yes, yeah. I had to like literally cover my eyes because I was just like, oh my God, what is it? What's in the picture? Oh man. And then especially when they show like the videos of like the zoom ins
Yeah.
in the house because they're like recording overnight.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It just I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through this. I'm like, this is so scary. And it's just like, oh my God, it just makes it so eerie and terrifying. Cause it's like, is she haunting the house almost, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like there's this curse that's been put like on the house almost. And I just, oh my God.
So the mom eventually ends up getting in contact with this seance, or I guess like a medium, who talks to like spirits and things like that. He has like a talk show. They want to figure out more about, you know, after that photo, like, okay, I kind of need something more because I see this very clearly. It looks like Alice. What's going on, you know? And through talking with this medium and everything, it's interesting because obviously when he's introduced, I just felt like, okay, is it just going to be kind of like a one note thing and he'll kind of be here for like exposition of the supernatural and then that's it? Yet he ends up developing like a relationship with his family.
He plays such a vital role into the film that really genuinely surprised me. I was like, oh, wow. You know? And it's like, it's nice because it's like you have somebody who is more experienced with spirits and everything too.
Yeah.
So it's nice to kind of get that observer of somebody who is more familiar with a lot of like the ghosts and spirits of everything.
And again, like when he was introduced, I really just felt like he's just gonna do exposition on what we're seeing and then that's it. But the story starts to unravel that, okay, he's developing kind of a relationship with his family. What he says to Alice's mom over the radio, and he gets kind of clued in on something. It's not fully revealed, but he feels the need to help this family. And through that, and through the photos and everything, that's when eventually the son sets up like those cameras and things.
Which had to be the most anxiety-inducing scenes that I have seen in a long time. I was genuinely scared for my life, like watching those zoom-ins and the
So when they
footage.
set up these cameras, obviously my first thought is kind of like Paranormal Activity. Okay, we're going to see some things kind of happen. And right away, you see this shadow walk across the room, and I'm like, oh God, I can't do this. But the one thing that I appreciate on like a filmmaking perspective is what caught your attention actually wasn't the thing, you know? Then they zoom in, and again, like the zoom ins are just so creepy. It's like, oh, here was the spot you should have been looking at. And then it'll show like a figure or a reflection. And it's like, oh shit, like that was there the whole time and I didn't even notice it. Again, those reveals and stuff like really are done so well, and it adds to the eeriness. And I'll just be honest, I was like terrified. I was like, oh my God. And it breaks that wall of more than just a documentary, but
especially because I find so much home video, lost media type stuff to be super disturbing. It definitely like scared me a lot more, just especially with how it was showing those zoom ins, you know, because it's like a lot of those like PSAs where it's like, oh, did you see the full picture? And then it's like, it shows you again. It's like, oh, smacks. It gives you like a different context and perspective almost, that I was just like, oh my God. Like it really surprised me in that sense.
And the family's trying to understand, okay, if we're seeing Alice in this footage, you know, what's going on, you know, like, and I really like that aspect of some of the family members are buying into it, but some aren't. Like the dad wasn't fully on board with this seance helping them. He was kind of against it to a certain point. The mom wanted to, and then the son didn't really care as much, you know?
And at first too, I thought honestly the seance was gonna be like the reveal of like maybe he killed her. You know, just because he kind of did know a lot about her. So I was like, throughout the film, I was like still questioning, like, okay, who's in on this? For sure, like the seance, like at first I was kind of like, you're like, okay, he's more experienced with a lot of this stuff, but is he just like scamming them to maybe just like make this up and just like taking advantage of their grief?
Yeah.
Almost.
And it's cool. They actually the family addresses that at one point. Like I forget who it is, but it might have been the mom. She ends up thinking like, I'm getting scammed. Like this guy's just kind of telling me what I want to hear, and things like that. And I appreciated that because it kind of shows that the family is smarter than we think they are. They realize maybe there's something else going on because it's not adding up. And then slowly after that, the realization, there's this footage with this couple called the Withers, I believe.
Oh my God.
They are out at this area, and in the video, you see it's so cool. Like they show the video, they don't fully explain everything, and then in retrospect, they show you what you were supposed to have seen. And I just enjoy that so much. Again, it's like someone showing you an image, and like Wallied said, you kind of have to find those hidden meetings and okay, wait, is that? Oh, wait, that is it, And it's a very rewarding feeling if you can find that stuff early on. But with that Withers footage, it shows that her brother actually was out in this area, technically like setting things up in a way. And the reveal shortly happens that he had been faking some of these images and the footage and things, and it's kind of like almost like a letdown, I guess I would say.
It's almost like a 180 almost. Like it really surprises you, and it makes you have more questions about the family than I did before, and it's just like, okay, wait, is Matthew kind of taking advantage of their grief almost, instead of the seance?
And not to mention, in like a horror perspective, it gives you that feeling of safeness now, of like, oh, okay, well, maybe everything wasn't as creepy as I once thought it was. And that's such a genius move. Again, like you can have scares elevated throughout a horror movie the whole time, and that's going to be such an adrenaline rush and everything. But I do like it when horror movies have those ebbs and flows of, okay, here's this terrifying part. Now we're going to go to something a little more grounded. Now we're going to make you feel safer, just to elevate it even more. So obviously that reveal, again, like on a family perspective, it's like, what's going on? Why is his son doing this? I don't get it. It leaves you with a lot of questions, Yeah. And, but I really liked it. It really adds that dynamic of you're with them. You're trying to figure out what's going on.
It's such a great like misdirection too, almost. Cause it's almost like, oh wait. So you almost kind of take out like the spirit aspect of the film almost entirely, you know? And you start just seeing it through like a new lens almost.
And basically after that, what ends up happening with the footage, whatever being revealed as fake, they kind of repair things with the seance and stuff. And he's kind of, reaches out towards the family, especially after they move out of the house and everything. They're kind of it feels like they're putting things behind them. The seance and Matthew, they end up going on a road trip. And before that, I guess they had the camera set up and they never took them down. It was going to record footage or whatever. And they basically had forgot to have taken them down. Upon reviewing of the footage, damn, this really scared me.
Oh my God.
Alice appears on tape, and it's not manipulated like before. It's interesting. They show you how Matthew kind of faked the footage. He used like this clip of Alice like turning her head, and he would like position it in like a mirror. So you would always it was always like this fixed angle and everything. However, this reveal of Alice, she's just like full on like in the face of the camera.
Yeah.
And the picture's all distorted. Or you see Alice like looming over her mom's bed, I believe, or in her room. And it's just like, ooh, it's so effective. And then you start to realize like, okay, there was more going on than I had originally expected.
The spirits come back into play.
And then there's the revelation of the seance had met with Alice before her death.
Yeah.
He did not want to disclose that because he felt like he wouldn't have fully been able to help this family. And I'm like, wow, that's actually really interesting. if you kind of mention that you know your daughter or whatever, they're going to act different around you, especially with something that hits so close and so hard. It's like for him to fully be able to help them, he needed them to not know anything.
Yeah.
And I really liked that reveal. I was like, wow, that's actually a lot more interesting than I was originally thinking.
Yeah, and it makes you rethink like the Seance character too, and almost like, oh, he was like, instead of me thinking like, oh, he was trying to like maybe murder her or something, it's more like, oh, he was trying to help her through those like dreams. That also comes back into play too.
Yeah.
Also.
So immediately you start kind of retextualizing and rethinking of the stuff you had been seeing. And they actually use it with that first camera where the shadow walks by the room. So now it was that reveal, the shadow went by. Then the second reveal was actually the mirror. Alice is right there. Then all of a sudden, upon reviewing of the footage, turns out there was something on the right side, and it was this guy. Like you see him in Alice's room. Oh man, there was just so many like hidden like, and I just get immediately like freaked out. Oh my God. And it zooms in and you see this guy's face, and now you're starting to put together the story. This guy, I guess, was a neighbor that Alice would babysit for, and he was going into the room to remove a personal item of Alice's. It was a videotape, and the reveal happens that Alice was basically involved sexually with the mom and the dad. And that was just such a eerie, like, oh my God, like what? And you start to realize why she was kind of acting different, you know, and trying to hide things. I guess, what were you thinking? Like, that was like a crazy reveal.
The reveal was honestly so disturbing that I legit thought that was like the scare of the film.
Yeah.
And it made my stomach churn. I was like, it's just so disgusting. And then like, the picture they show after the tape, I think, makes you rethink like just like the neighbors, and like it really just shows you like the family aspect that terrifies me so much is everything may seem happy on the outside, but it's like when like just showing that clip, and when you see like kind of the more dark secrets, it's like you get a window into like this really disturbing life of these parents almost. And I thought it was just super effective and disgusting, and just like what the hell, honestly. And I don't know, it just like it shows you a glimpse into like just you don't really know who your neighbors are.
Yeah.
And you see even with the dad, he's like, yeah, I would beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, God, it just made my stomach churn, honestly. I was just so disgusted and disturbed that I was like, oh my God, like it.
And it plays into the
Yeah.
scariness of the unknown, because shortly after it said that family left 6 months after Alice had died, and they were trying to find any remnants of where they might have gone to, you know. And to me, that's granted, they explain a lot, but I do like that something was kind of left unknown, you know.
Yeah.
At one point, I was kind of expecting, are they going to catch them and we're going to see like an interview or whatever? But I'm also glad we didn't, because like Wallied said, those photos speak enough. You know, a lot of the photos in this movie are just, again, so well done. They feel so genuine. And I can't imagine the work that went into them just to capture like a picture, you know?
Yeah.
And yet it says a lot and it explains a lot. And yeah,
It covers the faces of like the kids too, also,
Yeah.
which I think makes it even more eerie and terrifying.
really though. So that whole reveal was just like, oh man, like, and the guy was in the room basically to find that tape, and because that was a shred of
Get rid of
evidence,
it,
pretty
yeah.
much, and really disturbing. Again, such amazing like reveal of footage. Like again, it's the same shot. We thought it was one thing. They show a reveal. Turns out it was this other thing. Then later on, turns out it was this thing. It's like they really just laid it all out for you when you first saw it. You just had to be keen to look for it. Again, that's filmmaking on such a great level.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. again, up until this point, I was feeling scared. I was feeling like, damn, this is so effective. This is so good. And there are those moments of like levity where you think it's kind of ending and then it keeps going. So after the reveal that the seance met with Alice before her death, it shows kind of a little bit of that interview and what she was thinking. She's talking about this dream she's having, and it's really effective. It's kind of one of the only few times you really see Alice talk in the movie.
Yeah.
Yet it feels so genuine and she feels like such a real character. It's like, wow, I can't believe how attached I am with just simple photographs, footage, and things like that. It's really good.
I was honestly so surprised when she started talking. I was like, oh, wow, that's how she sounds.
Yeah. And again, it has that documentary feel and you just are fully like immersed in it. They start going through some of her other items, and one of them is like a journal or something, calendar. I don't know if it's like an agenda or something. Then it flips a page and you see Lake Mungo for 3 days on the thing. Such a great reveal of a title. I was just like, oh, there's the title. Shit. And it turns out Lake Mungo was the location of her school camp for 3 days. I guess they went in like a group or something. There's a change. Okay, so we're going to get into probably, again, the biggest scene for me of the movie. There's footage of the girls, like her and her friends, like messing around. Camera, phone footage. Yeah. And again, it looks
like Nokia phone,
flip phone
video footage.
Camera footage, and it adds to the scariness of it. The low quality, the low sound really just feels like authentic, and it's like, oh, this is kind of eerie, but it's just girls messing around with their phones. You know, they're all joking around, messing around. And then it kind of cuts with interviews of her friends and everything. And they were like, yeah, Alice was, everything was fine. And then it shows the image, just like a photo image of her. And they're like, wait, that's Alice. She's burying something, like, what is she doing? And they said after that moment, Alice leaves the group because it was obvious she was kind of distressed by something.
Yeah.
Now, again, this whole time, you're kind of starting to see like, okay, something had to have happened for Alice to start acting different. What was it? And she's burying her phone, or she's burying something in the ground over there. What's going on? Then it cuts to the family wanting to find out, well, okay, at Lake Mungo, if she buried something there, when we find it, what are these answers, that we're going to find? And I really like that because it shows, again, the family is not dumb. They're smart. They're trying to do whatever they can to get answers for their daughter's death. And they go in search of her, or of what she had buried. And again, through the unraveling the footage, they find a bag. And in the bag, they find personal items and things that she had buried, like a bracelet, her phone, things like that,
Yeah.
And they start to go through everything. And the footage of her phone is revealed. She had taken a video that night, and all her friends, they were doing something, and they basically break off from each other. And Alice is recording. Amazing, 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 amazing. I just can't say that enough. The footage of her phone is revealed, and layered with it is her interview with the seance. And he's asking her questions. And basically the first question is, are you scared of dying? She basically gets into that question, She feels something bad is going to happen. And you start to see this footage and everything of what's going on, where she is. Okay, so basically she stops somewhere. I'm getting chills right now. Just, oh man, my skin's crawling. The footage is of her at that lake. And it's intercut with this interview. And it not only feels like a scary climax, but it feels like the climax of, the interview, the movie, Yeah. She's scared. She's been scared of something. You see this figure far off in the distance. It's so grainy. Again, it's old phone footage, and it's just slowly like working its way towards the camera.
Oh my God.
I am not lying. When I saw this thing, I was freaking out. I was screaming. I was watching with my girlfriend. I screamed like so loud. and I was getting so scared. She at one point had to tell me to like shut the fuck up because my screaming was scaring her. Like I was freaking out, and you just see this figure walking towards it. Oh man, as it gets closer, you know, the footage is so grainy, you start to get the reveal of what it is, and it just stops. The footage stops, full view, and you see it's Alice. It's her dead body. And they cut with it and the photo you saw in the beginning of her dead body. Oh my God. I was so like, oh, what the fuck? I was like scared. And again, okay, they go for a scare. Some people might not like it. For me, I'm sorry, they've earned it. They earned the jump scare. I'll call it a jump scare. Because, yeah, I jumped and I
jumped out of my seat.
I screamed so loud.
That has to be the scariest scene I have ever seen in a movie.
Not lying.
That image, since I saw it last week, is just burned into my brain. It is so eerie. Just that face that she makes is like the face of nightmares.
Yeah.
Almost. Like I can't even imagine how you could even come up with something like this.
God. And it quickly cuts back to her and boom, the thing jumps at the phone. Very quick. It plays a little sound effect. Regardless of whether or not you like jump scares, I'm sorry, this one earned it.
I'm not big on jump scares, but it was a very satisfying scare, and it was just like a perfect firework.
Yep.
From all the buildup that you've seen throughout.
Exactly.
It has to be the most effective jump scare I have ever seen in a horror film.
I agree.
Period.
100%.
Period.
Like, again, this is someone who was seeing this from someone who is seeing movies as like, yeah, I never really get scared. You know, it's not like video games or whatever. I'm sorry. This scene totally shut me up. Movies can be just as scary.
Yeah.
And it can really unnerve you and freak you out. I'm like Wallied. That image in my head was there from the moment I've seen it. Anytime I talk about this movie, that scene comes into my mind. For a short while after that, when I was falling asleep or when I was outside at night, that image just stuck with me. It really just genuinely terrified me because you're not expecting it, you know?
Yeah.
The whole movie, they do break that immersion just a little bit. Not immersion, but they break that wall just a little bit with like the zoom ins and things. Throughout the whole time, I was like, that's probably the extent of what I'm going to see, you know?
Yeah.
Yet with this thing, just again, it's so simple. It's just something walking towards you. Yet the context of everything and what you've been seeing, yeah, man, what an amazing piece of filmmaking. Not only that, using the footage of like an old flip phone.
Yeah. The sound design too.
Yeah.
Also, it's just like it puts you in that atmosphere really well. And especially too, that's actually one thing I wanted to touch on with the film that honestly gave me chills throughout is just the sound design in this film is like, it's like another scare factor to just the overall experience, especially just with like the hissing bugs that you hear when they go to the lake.
The power lines.
Yeah, the power lines or like the sound that
the winds when they're doing those establishing shots.
The sound of like the camera and like the or like just like the ambiance you hear, like because it's so quiet in the house. My God, it's just
amazing. And again, like it's one thing to build up to like a scare, but because it's intercut with that interview, it was not only a scare payoff, but also kind of an emotional like, damn, this is sad, you know? Again, like
a terrible vision almost of like what would come.
Yeah. It's just so effective and so amazing. And then shortly after that, the obviously the scare, you realize this was kind of, the family kind of says it was like an omen, pretty much coming there to warn her of what was going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
And shortly after that, they show more footage of her with all the girls and everything. And it stops on this shot of her, and you can just see she's like disturbed.
Yeah,
And
she's
she's
genuinely scared for her life.
and she's different now after seeing that. I mean, who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
So yeah, like that whole unveiling of that and everything was just absolutely amazing. The family going there, again, it was like them piecing together what was going on and getting closure. But it is unfortunate because it's like they never really found the neighbors or anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of left open ended, but they get to the point where, again, it's like what we've been talking about some of these other movies. You can kind of process your grief a little bit and you can kind of move on, you know?
Yeah.
And that ending conversation with the family members and everything was a really nice ending for me. And it really kind of brought everything full circle. And then the reveal starts to happen that, like, the mom, when she was being interviewed later by the seance, she's describing a dream that she had, and it's cut with Alice describing her dream, and you start to realize they were in that same space together, and their consciousness was connecting and they were talking to each other. Amazing.
God, it's insane.
Yeah.
And then to touch on your grief point too, I really do love that it's shown in such an effective way where it's like you see that like with Alice's death, like it brings the family together almost, because like you can almost tell like during the footage you can kind of tell they weren't like they were still a family, but they wouldn't really like spend a lot of time with each other, and it's like it almost kind of brings them together almost with Alice's death. And I love that like just the film kind of comes almost full circle with that whole grief portrayal. Is like you finally see the family at like that acceptance stage, even though they couldn't find the neighbors and there are still a lot of things left open-ended. It still kind of brings them together, and like they learn to kind of accept. And even though I feel like moving out of the house is like a portrayal of them like moving on and like learning to let go of like Alice's death almost.
Yeah, really. And it feels like cathartic. This family has taken that step, and it draws to a satisfying conclusion. And the movie is not long. Like it's like an
under
hour,
90 minutes.
Yeah,
it's like 85 minutes.
Super effective.
Yeah.
It wastes no time. Everything in it is just layered with so many things. Not even to mention story wise, but visually, just everything really worked. And again, breaking that perspective, you could tell this in like a normal horror movie kind of lens, and yeah, I feel like it would be effective, like the family dynamic and everything, but because it's this documentary, it pulls you out of what you think you're expecting.
It makes it a lot scarier too, and it makes you question like if some of it is, you know, because like at first I was like, it took me until like the second half to realize, oh, okay, it's like a mockumentary, but I honestly genuinely was convinced like it was a documentary from like the moment it began, you know. And I don't know, like looking into the director too, because this is the only film he's made. It's like, I can't even find any info about the guy online. Like, it's like, like there's not even a picture of him like online or anything. So it's like almost like, I feel like it makes it even more scarier to know, like just like the people involved with this film, there's not much info or behind the scenes on this movie.
Yeah. And I was watching it on Amazon, and my girlfriend pointed it out. When you pause part of the movie and it'll say like the actor's name and it kind of shows like a picture, it shows that, and literally the picture that they use is that scene in the movie, and I'm like, are these like actor? And you know,
exactly.
And it's just like that's just a level of authenticity that really works. Again, there are a few movies like that in horror. I'm not going to say this is the first one, obviously, like Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity. But this has to be one of the only times I've seen them use like this documentary lens to show something like this, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the ending shot, they're moving from the house. They take a photo as a family. And lo and behold, you zoom in again, more zoom ins. Alice you see her in the house. And you see like the shadowy figure of her. And then this like little post-credit kind of scene plays. And we go back to some of the older photos. Yep, where you were looking was not where you were supposed to be. Turns out in another part, Alice was there the whole time. And man,
my God,
that just really rang true in the ending. Yeah. Again, for me, this was like unlike something I've ever seen before. It broke me out of that mold. I'm sorry, scary movies are just as amazing, and they can be just as scary if done well and if done right. I don't know what it is with me and Australian filmmaking, but for some reason we connect. Sorry, breakdancer from Australia, you do not represent your country in a great way. These guys do. Joel Anderson, George Miller, Jennifer Kent. Amazing filmmaking. I don't know what it is with me and Australian films, but for some reason we're connecting. I would never move there though, because they have such creepy giant spiders and stuff.
You guys are like peanut butter and jelly, you and those Australian horror films.
But yeah, that was just a nice little added bonus when I was watching it again. I was like, wow, another Australian film.
I know. I was like gonna ask you after. I'm like,
that I guess I like.
He's got a thing for Australian horror films.
I cannot recommend this movie enough, though. Please, guys, if you're hanging out with friends, put this on. Like, you want to be you want to be scared by something, put this on. You guys will have such a great experience. If you're brave enough, wait until it's night, turn off all the lights.
Oh god.
Amp up the sound, do it. Like, I encourage it so much. It doesn't have that haunted house feel, yet I'm like, there's so many scares in this movie that will work to that level for some reason.
And it's such a like perfect drama too if you're not like into horror also. It's just like just this really fantastic story about like grief and like just seeing this family coming together too, that I was just really surprised by, and I really loved that a lot about the film. And also kind of a mystery film because you just have so many questions, you know? You're guessing so much, and I'm like, it's great for me as like a first time viewer because I'm like, I have no idea where this movie is going. I don't know what direction it's going to take, but I'm all in for it.
Yeah. And again, like I mentioned, some of my other favorite horror movies, it works on multiple levels. Like Wallied said, you have the family mystery side, you have the scariness, you have the reveals and things. Just all comes together perfectly. You have the documentary lens. Yeah. It just works so good. I cannot recommend this movie enough. Since I've seen it, I just want to show more people, and I want to see their reaction, especially at that scene. Again, that to me was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life.
That and the videotape scene, I think, were like just two of the most disturbing, scariest scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah,
honestly.
And again, my reaction, I genuinely screamed. There was no other reaction I could have had. At that moment, I had to scream because it scared me that much. So I cannot recommend it enough. It sucks. We're on a string of them, but it's a 10 out of 10 for me. There's nothing I would really add or want to explore more. Yes, some things are left a little open-ended, but I feel like for what this film is going for, it works. The drama side works. The scary side, to me, just perfect. So please check it out. And just be ready for that scene, guys. Like, again, oh man, that's something that I still think about, and I still freak out, and it still scares me. And
it lingers with you. You're just haunted by it.
It's such an amazing filmmaking on display here, guys. So please check it out. Wallied, what are you thinking score-wise?
Yeah. Again, this has to be the scariest film I have ever seen. Very effective. I love how it uses the medium of documentary filmmaking to its just absolute advantage. The sound design is incredible. Even the music, which at first I was like not too crazy about, but the more I thought about it, I was like, this is kind of authentic, honestly, to like a documentary. So I just like those droning like synths or strings I thought worked really, really well. And then, yeah, just the acting, which if I think is acting, honestly, is amazing. So incredible. It's like you're not even watching acting at that point. Doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just like the perfect length. It's perfectly paced at like 85 minutes. Yeah, same as you. I'm at a loss for words. I think I just got to give it a 10. Honestly, this is, again, the scariest film I've ever seen. And this film left such a massive emotional impact on me that I was like, oh my God, you know? And just, again, the family drama is just, again, that family side of horror. Like, I'm telling you, when that videotape scene came on and like that, the shows like that picture of the family, it's so eerie and disturbing. And yeah, no, it's just genuinely perfect. Like, this is what I want from like a horror film.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a 10 from me.
Can't recommend it enough. Again, if you're looking for the scares right now during the October month, this is going to work for you. I don't really say that because I know a lot of things can be interpreted, but I don't know if I could, I don't know who could watch this movie and not get scared. You know, like it just works that well. And it's just amazing filmmaking. I hope more people see this movie. I hope there are artists out there who get influenced by this movie and maybe could challenge themselves like, okay, well, we have horror movies as a concept, but what's a different way we can go about it, you know?
Yeah.
Because that documentary feel adds to the scares to the maximum degree.
Especially with how it like just uses home video to like, it's, man, so
amazing.
perfect. I actually found out through like the IMDb facts. Apparently, this was the film that actually scared Jordan Peele. Oh, believe it or not, he said this was one of the scariest films he had ever seen. And I just thought that was like a really cool fact I found out about after. I was like, oh damn, I didn't know Jordan Peele saw this one.
That's great. I love that. So yeah, I really can't recommend it enough. Surprisingly, it's been out for so long, yet I still feel like I don't hear a lot of people talk about it.
It's underrated. It's underappreciated.
When I mention it with horror fans and stuff, they're always like, wait, what's that one? You know? And I always try to recommend it as much as I can. And not even that. I feel like it breaks the boundary of that horror lens and title. I feel like this is just amazing filmmaking on every level.
Yeah,
you know?
Genuinely.
So can't recommend it enough. Please check it out. And let us know what you guys think. Like, I really hope more people see this movie because of this podcast.
Yeah, check it out, guys.
When we were talking about horror movies, like, this is the first one that came to mind. Like, immediately I was like, if I'm trying to scare people and I want them to feel scared, this is the movie I show them. You know, like, I couldn't imagine any other movie if I was really trying to scare someone. So if you guys have the time, check it out.
It's on Tubi.
I was able to rent it off Prime. So yeah, check it out. Amazing. I'm really glad you liked it.
Yeah, I really, really loved it. It's a film I've heard about for such a long time because I heard about it through Chris Stuckman, actually, funny enough, through his Halloween special. And I just remember seeing the zoom-ins from the clips he would show, and I just remember getting so scared by it that I just never saw it after it. So when you told me you were going to recommend this next, I was like, all right, let's just sit down and watch this one.
Bring it on. All right, Wallied. We're still in our horror movie season, so what are we going to be talking about next time?
All right, so I'm going to go more comedic for our next recommendation because comedy horror is more my specialty. When it comes to horror, I know I've noticed we haven't really talked about anything comedic yet, so I thought it'd be kind of perfect, and also to finally talk about my second favorite filmmaker ever. So yeah, this is probably my favorite zombie movie ever made. Probably, yeah. It's absolutely hilarious. And I won't say it's like super scary. It is still just like kind of sad and just some of the drama of the film. So the film I am going to go with is a film called Shaun of the Dead, directed by Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost.
Perfect.
I've wanted to talk about this film for a while. I was originally going to do it as like the more Cornetto trilogy thing, but I was like, honestly, I feel like the films are so different that I'll just recommend them individually. And I do want to talk about all of his films at some point.
Definitely.
So yeah, Shaun of the Dead is what we're going to talk about next time.
I'm excited.
It is one of the coolest zombie films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about Edgar Wright because he's a director I've wanted to talk about for a long time. And yeah, I thought it fit perfectly for our Halloween special. So yeah.
And coincidentally, like throughout this Halloween special, like we talked about the Babadook. Lo and behold, that weekend that we talked about it, it was in theaters for its 10-year anniversary. And Shaun of the Dead the same way. 20 years ago, it was out in theaters. So I don't know what it was with the timing, But for some reason, it worked out perfectly because I think Shaun of the Dead's actually going to be in a theatrical run here in a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know when, but
So
hopefully
I'll have to check it out.
it'll get more people to check it out. So
Yeah, and it's a great movie, and it really, I guess, I don't know. I feel like people, we'll obviously talk about it in the review, but what is it called? Satire, you know?
yeah,
I feel
kind
like
of.
I feel like this is like, you know, my favorite type of that, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like it does everything really well, and like it goes in different directions rather than just, we just want to make fun of certain things, you know?
Yeah, I would say it more embraces like
Yeah.
just kind of the tropes, but it does so much more with it, and we'll get
Really
more into
does.
it when we discuss it next episode. So yeah, Shaun of the Dead. If you guys don't want to be spoiled for it, Edgar Wright film, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, favorite comedy duo ever. Watch it before the next episode comes out.
And just to mention, with us missing last week, we might try to have a little catch up to do, you know, a little extra episode and things like that, just so we can kind of make sure that we're hitting the marks here, especially in October. And then we'll be getting back to our regular film recommendations and reviews. Just to keep you guys updated, we're having more guests on and everything. And we're getting towards the end of the year, which, like me and Wallied mentioned, a lot of movies start coming out. So I'm going to try to find the best way to where we can amplify our review output, make it as fast as possible, you know, just, all right, we saw the movie, let's get in front of a mic and let's just discuss first impressions. And then not to mention, we're going to be talking about music here pretty soon. So I hope
Super excited about.
I am too. I hope you guys stick with us for that. Thank you so much. Lake Mungo, that's the one.
Crossed it off the list.
So
I cross it off my watch list now.
I really can't recommend it enough, guys. Like, please check it out. And I guess that's it. We'll see you guys on the next one then. Have a good one.
Yeah, good day and good night, mates.